Hey guys, thanks for joining me up to Play Games. My name is Lance, and today I'm going to teach you how to play Dragonrealm. This is a new game by Gamewright. It is a 2 to 4 player game that takes roughly 30 to 45 minutes to play, and is a competitive game, so each player is going to be competing against the other players, and the player that has the most points at the end of the game will be the overall winner. So this is the follow-up game to Dragonwood, so if you enjoyed that game, you definitely want to check this one out, and there'll be a lot of similarities between the two. It is a different game, so it is not the same experience as you guys are going to see in the video. So if you find these videos helpful, if you like what I do, please consider that like button and subscribing to my channel, as it really does make a big difference, helps me to continue to grow and produce these videos. And if you want to stay up to date on all my videos, also consider ringing that bell so you get notifications anytime I release new content. So let's head to the table, and I'll teach you guys how to play. There's a custom set of six-sided dice included in the game with numbers 1 to 4 on them, with one side having a 1, two sides having 2s, two sides having 3s, and finally one side with a 4. The first set of cards we have are the enhancement cards, and these will have the purple background. Each of these cards is going to list the name of the item at the top, the image of the item, and then the level of the item, which there are going to be 2 levels, level 1 and 2 items. And then finally, at the bottom of the card are going to be the effects of that card, with some of them granting you bonuses for certain tests that you'll take throughout the game. Others will only work one time and then be discarded after you use them. And finally, you'll also have some that will give you points or coins at the end of the game, and those will be listed at the bottom as well. The second set of cards we have are the adventure cards, which are going to be broken down into 5 different suits with numbers 1 to 12, and you have yellow, blue, purple, green, and red. And then you're also going to have 6 goblin cards and 2 rock slides. With the goblin cards, each time those are revealed, you'll follow the directions on the bottom and place the goblin in that space or location. Finally, with the rock slide cards, each of those will have an effect at the bottom as well, which will have the players passing a number of cards to their left or right as shown on the card. Finally, we're going to move over to the location cards, and first one we're going to look at is the starting location. With this one, this is a double-sided card, with one side having the Adventurers Academy and the other side having the Adventurers Alley. For your first couple games, it's recommended to use the Adventurers Academy, and with this one, each time you fail and explore, you're going to place a meeple on here, and then in later turns, you can remove 1 or more meeples, and for each one you do, you're going to receive a +1 to your roll. Also, at the end of the game, for each meeple you have on here, you're going to receive a dragon stone, up to a maximum of 3 dragon stones. With the other side being the Adventurers Alley. With this one, it works a little bit differently. Each time, again, you fail and explore, you can place a meeple on there, and then later on in the turn, you can discard 2 meeples from here, plus discard a card from your hand to draw a level 1 enhancement, or you can discard 2 meeples and 2 copper coins to draw a level 2 enhancement. When you do that, you're going to flip over each card and let's say that we went ahead and did this one here. So we're looking for level 1, so this is level 2, so we can't take it. And then we flip over the next card. This is level 1, so we must take this card and add it to our hands. From there, then any cards that we drew that weren't a part of that, then you'll simply shuffle them back into the deck. And if you want to purchase a card of a certain level and there are no more cards in that deck, then you cannot make that purchase. Finally, at the end of the game, you're also going to receive dragon stones for meeples that are left in here, up to a maximum of 3. And there's also 4 different types of locations. We have dragon, levels 1, 2, and 3. Each location is going to have the name of that location at the top, and the number of meeples that must be placed there in order to complete that location. Then we have the 3 different explore options, which are sneak, search, and storm, along with the number that the player must roll equal to or greater than on the dice. Some of these locations will be highlighted with a yellow ring around them, which means if a player successfully meets that when exploring, they'll get to add 2 meeples to this location instead of the 1 for being successful. Then we have, when a location is completed, the rewards that the players will get based on the number of meeples that they have there, with the player that has the most meeples receiving the first number, and the player with the second most will receive that number. And I'll go over this more later on as well. And we have the number of dragon stones as locational grants to the player that has the most meeples in it. Finally, some of the locations also have special conditions or effects that will take place as well. For board setup, the first thing you're going to do is lay out the starting location and choose which side you're going to play on. And again, if you're playing with the first couple games, it's recommended to use the Adventurers Academy. From there, then you can grab the rest of the location decks and separate them into each one of their different types. So we have 3, 2, 1, and the dragon locations. From there, then you can go ahead and shuffle up each one of these locations. And with the dragon location, you're going to randomly choose one and place it face down. From there, then, we'll do the same thing with locations 1, 2, and 3. Shuffling each of these up. And then we're going to take one card from location 1 and place it there, and then location 2, and finally location 3. And then we'll do this one more time with location 1, 2, and 3. Now, if you're playing a 2-player game, then you would not place the final location 3 card. It would just be location 2. But we are playing with that, so then the rest of these can return to the boxes. We're not going to use them for this game. From there, then you can deal out these 3 locations across the top above this starting location. The other locations will be placed next to it. And you can also place out all the other things you're going to be using. So we'll have the 6 goblin meeples. We will have the dice that we're going to be using, and all the coins as well. And for this video, I'll be using a Crystal Fortress pod set. And if you want to find out more information about those, I'll have a link in the description below to their website. Then each player is going to receive a turn summary card. So we'll give that to each player. We're playing a 3-player game. And each player is also going to choose a color of meeple that they want to be. So we'll have our red. Go ahead and grab the enhancements deck and shuffle that up, and then deal 3 enhancements to each player. All right, then each player is going to go ahead and look at their enhancements that they have, and they will choose either to keep a level 2 enhancement, or they can choose to keep 2 level 1 enhancements. And if you don't have 2 level 1 enhancements, then you're pretty much stuck with the level 2 or 1 level 1 enhancement. So our player over here is going to take the pet chipmunk and place it there. The other 2 cards will be discarded. Our player here is going to take the wizard's wand. And our final player over here he's going to go ahead and take the magic scroll and potion of invisibility, as those are both level 1s. The rest of the cards, unless you're playing with the Adventurers Alley, you can go ahead and shuffle these up if you're playing that and place them off to the side. If you're playing with the Adventurers Academy, then you're going to return the rest of these to the box, as you won't be using them for the rest of the game. The final thing to do is grab the Adventurers deck, and based on the number of players, if you're playing a 4-player game, then go ahead and grab the Goblin cards, shuffle them up, and randomly choose 2 of them to discard. Otherwise, all the cards are going to be used, and you can simply shuffle up this deck and deal out 5 cards to each player. From there, then each player is going to look at their hands and make sure that they don't have any rock slide or goblin cards. If they do, they'll go ahead and discard those cards and draw a new card to replace it until they have 5 cards from suits. From there, then any cards that are discarded will be added back into that deck and shuffled up again. Then you're going to go ahead and place the deck on the top and reveal the top 2 cards. And again, if either one of those cards comes up as a rock slide or goblin, you'll shuffle those back in and place a new card out so that there are 2 different cards to choose from. Then you can choose a starting player however you want to choose, and we're ready to start the game. Dragonrealm is played over an undefined number of turns. Starting with the first player and proceeding in a clockwise manner, players will continue taking turns until the endgame condition is met, which is that the dragon card is resolved and completed, and then the players will move into a scoring round. And the player that has the most points will be the winner of the game. Moving into the game, the purple player will be our starting player for this game, and then it'll proceed in a clockwise manner around the table. From there, each player is going to have 1 or more enhancement cards, which they'll keep in their hand until they use it the first time. Some enhancement cards will be discarded after their first use, and the rest will remain face up in front of the player for the rest of the game. So for this video, I'm going to go ahead and keep these face up so you guys can see what they look like and what each player has, as most of these are just going to be remaining in effect cards, as none of these are going to be cards that will be discarded after a single use. During a player's turn, they can perform either a rest or explore action. I'm going to take you through both of these. So the first one we're going to look at is a rest action, which will allow a player to draw 2 adventure cards. Now they can either choose to take one of the 2 face-up cards, or they can do a blind draw from the deck. And they can do this 2 times. So for example, with our player here, he has a couple of yellow cards and 3 red cards. So if he wants to gain more of those, he could choose to do that. So let's say that he wants to gain the 9. From there, then we're going to reveal the top card of the deck and flip it over. And then again, our player will choose either to take one of those 2 cards or do a blind draw. So he's going to do a blind draw, and he found a goblin. So with this one, we're going to follow the directions on it. So we're going to place a goblin in the middle location. And then we're going to draw another card, as we will always get to take 2 cards. And it's another goblin. So this one is going to go on the left location. And then we have our final card. From there, then that'll be the end of that player's turn, and it'll pass to the next player. The other option our player has is an explore action. In order to do this, the player is going to announce which location they wish to target, and then what type of explore action they wish to take, which there is sneak, search, and storm. From there, the player is going to look at their hand and play a number of cards matching the requirements for that. They can play between 1 and 6 cards, and for each card that they play, they're going to get to roll 1 die for that card. So let's look at some examples of this. So each one of these is going to have different requirements. With sneak, you must play a number of cards in a row or sequence. So for example, we could play this sequence here, which is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It can be any color. It just must be sequentially ordered for the numbers. And then again, for each card that we play, we'll get to roll 1 die, so we get to roll 5 dice, and we need to roll equal to or greater than the value of that type of action we're taking. So with the sneak, we must roll a 7 or higher on that card. Now with the search action, we must play the same number, but from any suit. So we could play this sequence here, and for each card we play, we get a die, so we would get 3. And then the final one is Storm, where we would play any number card as long as it is in the same colored suit. So we could do this. We could even play 1 card and roll 1 die if we wanted to, and then based on the enhancements we have, we may actually be able to achieve that. So again, from there, then our player is going to choose. Let's go ahead and say that we do a sneak action. And so with that, we played our sequential ordered cards. We'll roll those 5 dice and see if we can get a 7 or higher, which we definitely did. We've got 9, 10, 11, 15, and then we look at our enhancements if they add anything, and with the Wizard's Wand, it's going to add +1 to all explorers, so that's all 3. So we would actually end up with, 11, 15, 16 points on that, and we did meet that requirement. So when we're successful, we'll place a meeple on that location in one of the spots on there. We'll also get to draw a new card from the deck, and as long as it's a numbered card, we'll add it to our hand. If it's a goblin or a rock slide, then you'll resolve those effects and draw a new card from there. Any cards you use are going to be discarded to the discard pile. Now, if we were unsuccessful, let's go ahead and say that we only rolled 2 dice. Instead, we only had played 2 cards, and we didn't get the requirements that we needed. From there, then we would place a meeple in our starting location that we could use later on, and then any cards that we used will go back into our hand instead of being discarded. And then we can try again next turn. The one other important thing I want to point out, let's go ahead and say instead that we chose the Troll Tavern as our location that we wish to explore, and then we did a search action. And we played 3 cards, and we came up with a 9, plus our Wizard's Wand is 10, which meets the requirements for that. Now, if a location or a action is highlighted, such as our search action here is highlighted with a yellow ring, then if we're successful, we get to place 2 meeples on that location. And that's true even if a location only has 1 spot left. So let's go ahead and say that our blue player here had 2 meeples on here, and we met the requirements and were successful on our search action. We got to place 2 meeples, and it'll just extend out, and then that location will be scored immediately. So we would get to place those, even though there's only a location or spots for 3 meeples. Once our player has completed their action, it'll move to the next player to take their turn, and this is going to continue going in a clockwise manner around the table. Now, as the players do different actions and explore different locations, those locations are going to fill up with meeples. And once all of the circles in a location are full of meeples, then we'll enter into a quick scoring step where that location will be scored. So let's look at an example of this. Let's go ahead and say that the Cave of Bats had 1 red meeple in it, and then it was our blue player's turn, and they just completed a successful storm, where they're going to place 2 meeples on there because it is highlighted. At this point, that location is full, and so we would enter into a scoring step. The player that has the most meeples on there will receive the first value there, so he's going to receive 8 coins, and these are going to be kept face down so that nobody knows how many points everybody has. From there, then the player that has the second most meeples on there would receive the second value, so our red player would receive 3 coins. And then if there are any other players on there after that, as some locations have a lot of circles on them, every other player would receive 1 coin for being on there. Once that is done, then each player will receive their meeples back, and if there was a distinct winner, if the player that has the most meeples on there, they would also receive the card, and it'll count for dragon stones at the end of the game. If there was a tie for first place, that card is simply going to be discarded and nobody will receive it. So in this situation, our blue player would get the card, and then we would immediately deal a new card from the stack to that location. If the stack has been depleted, then nothing new will be dealt out. Now, the other important thing that we need to point out are that there are other conditions that are going to come in there. So let's say, for example, that with this location, our red player had gotten 2 meeples on there, and our blue player had successfully stormed that location again, adding 2 blues. So once we move into a scoring step in this situation, if there's a tie for first place, then the first and second place numbers are totaled together and divided between the number of tied players, as there are locations that have a lot of circles on them, so you could have more than just 2 tie for a location. That location, again, will be added up and divided between those players evenly and rounded down. So any remaining will be simply lost. So for this example, we have 11 points between the two. And so each player would receive 5, and the last point would not be given out. And then again, in this situation, the location is tied for first place, so nobody would get that card, and it would simply be discarded, and nobody would receive the dragon stones for that. Now, you also can have goblins on locations, which they will count as a player, and if the goblins win a location, again, any points that they receive are simply going to be left in reserve. They will not actually collect them. They'll just be held from other players. And then if the goblins win a location, it'll go to the next player, as goblins do not care for locations and dragon stones. So let's go ahead and say, for example, that our goblin player, or there was 2 goblins in here completing this location. So they would receive the 8 points. Our red player would receive 3, and then the red player would receive the card because the goblins do not care for dragon stones. So the game is going to end as soon as the dragon location is complete, even if there are other locations that are still out there. So let's go ahead and say, for example, that during our purple player's turn, they went ahead and completed the dragon location. So at that point, again, that location is going to be scored, and then we would move into a final scoring step. So let's go ahead and resolve it again. So our purple player and our blue player are tied for first. So we'd add these 2 values together and get 21. So each of our players would receive 10 points. So purple and blue. And then our red player would simply get 1 coin. From there, then, since there was a tie, nobody would receive that location, and it is simply going to be discarded. And then we would enter into a scoring step. So first off, we would determine who has the most dragon stones. So our blue player has 2, and our red player had gotten 6, plus he has 1 here. So he has 7 dragon stones. Our purple player has 2 as well. So red has the most, and so he would receive 5 more coins for that. At that point, then each player is going to total up all of their coins, and the player that has the most coins will be the winner of the game. Now that I've covered all the rules, I want to take you through a couple more example turns just to show you guys how everything works. So let's go ahead and start with our purple player. And again, let's take a look at what they have in their hands. So we've got 2 suits, and so let's go ahead and do an explore action. So with that, let's go ahead and go after the sorceress castle. We'll do a sneak action. So we'll do the 6, 7, and 5 sequence. So we get 3 dice, and we're looking for a 7, and we got it. And we have 7, 8 points. So we'll place a meeple in that location. Our cards will be discarded, and we'll draw a card from the deck. From there, then it'll move to the next player to take their turn. So our player over here has... So let's go ahead and do a rest action. So we'll draw the top card of the deck and add it. And let's go ahead and take the 9. And then that'll end his turn. So we'll move over to our player over here to take their turn. They've got 3 cards. Let's go ahead and do a storm action. And let's go after this location here. So again, we'll get 3. And we missed. We did not get enough. So we will add a meeple to our central location. We'll get these cards back, and our turn is over. So then we would move back over to our purple player again to take their turn. They're going to go ahead and rest. So they're going to take this 9. Let's go ahead and take the 2. Then we'll move over to our next player to go again. So our player over here is going to rest again. And again, you can only hold up to 9 cards. So they're going to take their 10 and 1 more. So that's 3. That's 9 cards for them. Moving over to our player over here. He's going to go ahead and try again with that storm action, so he'll gain 3 dice, and he's going to go after the Troll Tavern again. So this time he got it with 10 points, so he'll add a meeple to that location. These will be discarded, and we'll draw a new card, which is a Goblin. So a Goblin will go in the middle location, and another card. All right. So I hope that gave you guys a good idea how the game plays. And if you have any questions or comments, leave those in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch my videos and leave me feedback on them. I do really appreciate it, and I take into account everything you say to make the best possible videos. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.